the sports-based show, we welcome your thoughts, say what you gotta say, so speak your mind freely. I'm your host for tonight, Kyla Cortez, and joining me is no other than Juan Banal.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you?
I'm good. It's close. We're how many days before Christmas?
Around 9
Around 7. Around 7 days.
18, yes.
Around 7 days. So Merry Christmas, everyone. We won't be having a Christmas show, so This might be the last time you'll see us before we move on to the Christmas break. But thanks for having me, Kyla. We're excited to talk about sports. A lot to talk about.
But before that, grabe yung Christmas traffic ngayon, no?
Crazy. I think parang September pa lang kasi maaga yung Pasko dito. Pero December has been just on another level when it comes to traffic. So hopefully, maybe you're commuting and you're watching us live. Sana we can keep you company all throughout the next 30 minutes or so.
But are you ready na sa Christmas? Okay ng Christmas presents?
To be honest, I think a lot of things are too overwhelming kaya hindi pa ako medyo handa. Busy about a lot of things, but hopefully we don't forget the reason for the season for Christmas and go back to and focus to that one.
Okay, so I'll just lead you guys with our hot takes for tonight. So first is JD Cabulangan, the GOAT for UP. Second, we'll be having esports. Is this a real sport? Ang dami nagtatanong yan, mga, wala na sa Gen Z or even sa ibang, even parents. And of course, pro volleyball player raising the bar. Pag-uusapan natin ito mamaya. And of course, our NBA Cup Finals recap. So, for first topic, is JD Cagulangan the GOAT for UP? So, just recently, nanalo ang UP against TLSE for UAP.
Yeah, congratulations to the Fighting Maroons for winning their second championship in the last 4 years.
Yes.
And again, they beat none other than the defending champions who they played against also last season against the De La Salle Green Archers. That series was... I thought we had a really good series already dun sa Mapua and College of St. Benilde sa NCAA.
Yeah.
We saw brilliance from Clint Escamis to rookies like Mangubat and Hobilia. But then we move on to the UAP, which from before the whole series even started, di ba, nagkaroon pa yan ng conflict in scheduling kasi may chance na magkaroon ng magkasabay yung Game 3 at they're gonna be competing both in Araneta, but I think they got to solve that perfectly. Mapua ended that series 2-0. On the other hand, yung UAP naman, you have it going the distance, going to a death match, 1-1 status, and then they battled for the third place. By the way, the Game 2 with LaSalle coming from behind, mukhang magre-repeat performance sa Game 3 kasi they were down by as much as I think 14 points in the third quarter, and then I'm talking about De La Salle, and then LaSalle came back and then almost had it. Just some tough breaks of the game. You had KQ kind of sitting a little bit longer in the bench. I know he was trying to sub in earlier pero walang dead ball situation to get him into the floor. Wala na yun eh. Do or die na. KQ had it all left on the floor. But again, when the dust is settled, we are talking about one guy, JD Cagulangan, who won the finals MVP for that series, won his second championship for the Fighting Maroons. And you have to understand that this has been like a long drought for UP. But they had they only won like 13 games out of 126 games before shall we say yung kumbaga season or era ni JD Cagulangan. And ang maganda kasi dito sa usapan na to is si JD nanggaling po yan sa LaSalle. Kumbaga dugong berde yan eh, 'di ba? LaSalle Green Hills yan sa high school, played for the NCAA LaSalle Green Hills. Doon nanalo siya ng championship in 2017 and then won also the finals MVP in the same school. I know he also played with David, who was his rival point guard in the La Salle Green Archers for this series. And unfortunately, he didn't get the minutes. He didn't get the exposure that he wanted. His heart bled green But God had a funny way of turning things around for him. It was, I like there were some photos that came out na he was singing the alma mater of LaSalle after that match. Pero sabi niya nga, puso niya is green, but then, UP embraced him with open arms, made him the main point guard, and he delivered. So, sa mahabang intro na yun, we kind of just set the stage, pero sa mahabang intro na yun, ang tanong, is he would you consider him the GOAT when it comes to UP players? And you can see on your screen the list of players. You have Jerry Abadiano, you have Benji Paras, Orly Magsanok, Eric Altamirano, Paulo Mendoza, Marvin Cruz, Paul Desiderio, Bright Acueti, Malik Diouf, and Carl Tamayo. And the list, obviously stellar when it comes to big names. Hindi naman nagkukulang yung listahan na yan. Pero the big question is, should JD be even in the conversation of siya ba dapat ang maging GOAT considered the number of championships na pinanalo niya? 2 out of 3 doon sa, 4 championships na kasi ang pinanalo ng UP, technically speaking, sa UAAP. One was in 1939, the other one is in 1986. And noong 1986, ang lineup nila noon si Benji Paras, Ronnie Magsanok, and Eric Altamirano. And then, the 2 out of the 4 championships that UP won, part doon si JD Kagulangan. And kaya naman natin napapag-usapan na dapat ba siyang GOAT. Not to mention yung the shot that put him on the map was the shot on the first championship of UP after the 1986 championship against the Ateneo Blue Eagles, and that was a winning step back 3-point shot. And so that's when he made his mark, and then from then on he never looked back. People, when they talk about UP, they talked about JD Kagulangan and his ability to be front and center when it comes to their point guard duties.
So I just want to ask, let's just, take it back a bit. So how do you define a GOAT? What are the criteria?
I mean, if we defined it, if there was an objective definition of GOAT, then we probably wouldn't have the Michael Jordan, LeBron James debate, Kobe debate, wala dapat lahat yun. Di ba? Basis ba niya championship, di ba? Pero may Wilt Chamberlain tayo, di ba? May Bill Russell tayo, di ba? May mga ganun. Dapat kasama sa conversation yun. Are you talking about higher percentage in winning championships? Because again, Michael Jordan went into the finals 6 times, won 6 times, di ba? LeBron James on the other hand, not so, di ba? So is that how you define GOAT? Very tricky, very subjective at this point. So, pag binalikan mo kasi, I think, to be honest, it's too early to say if JD Kagulangan could be the GOAT. Bakit? Kasi hindi mo pwedeng ialis din yung isipan ng mga tao. Pag tinignan nila yung isang Ronnie Magsanok, isang Benji Paras at Eric Altamirano, pagdating sa nakamit nila after their stint with UP. Kasi technically speaking, they just won 1 championship for UP. Tama? And yet, itong si JD won 2 out of the 4 championships.
Exactly.
And so mas madami siya. He has 1 over the other. So ang tanong, yun ba yung basingan? Dami ng championship. But then, if you take a look at this, si Coach Eric Altamirano, he scored 27 points against their finals match against UE on that last game. But ang highlight nga nung laro na yun is si Benji Paras, because this Benji Paras and Ronnie Magsanok were the younger players. And Benji Paras had 19 points during that game. Ronnie Magsanok had 16 points. But Coach Eric Altamirano had 27 points in that match against you, which won them their 2nd championship. So, again, going back to your question, Kyla, medyo subjective at this point. Right? And I think people will immediately answer, syempre, yung mga Gen X dyan, yung mga baby boomers. Ang kilala nila dyan is, syempre, si Benji Paras. Because he's the only player, I think, for UP at least, won the Rookie of the Year award and MVP in the pros, in the PBA. So, sino bang kilala mo pa nakagawa nun, di ba? So, the fact that Benji Paras was able to do that, again, the Tower of Power nga ang tawag kay Benji Paras, Ngayon ba na-alter ba yung perception natin ng GOAT? Kasi pag tinignan mo, sino bang pinakamagaling na UP player? You have to take into consideration yung longevity, yung career nila as a player because they syempre, they represent UP. On the other hand, you have guys like Coach Ronnie Magsanok and Coach Eric Altamirano that won a lot also as a coach. Diba? So, counted ba yun? Diba? Counted ba yun sa accomplishment? So, again, very fluid kasi yung tanong na sinong GOAT. But I think it's too early to say that JD Kagulangan is because he's still competing. Kasi kung ang basihan mo lang is UP at yung accomplishments mo sa UP, syempre, iba yung usapan ng JD Kagulangan. Nag-finals MVP pa siya, he won twice for UP. And so, hindi mo maiba. Pero to talk about also skill-wise and accomplishment. Siyempre, yung Paul Desiderio nandyan, Paolo Mendoza nandyan, di ba? Even Malik Diouf and Bright Acueti. But then again, they're foreign players kasi. So, again, like I said, ang hirap i-define. I think it's too early to say if JD is the GOAT, but then you have a strong contention na nandyan si Benji Paras, nandyan si Ronnie Magsanok, also Eric Altamirano, Malik Diouf, even Bright Acueti.
But before we move to our next hot take, I just want to ask you this because just to clarify and ask you and confirm, sure na ba si JD na magko-Korea siya? Because if so, who needs to step up?
Well, the news, obviously it was his last year. So wala naman talagang hindi katulad ni KQ na may isa pa siyang playing year pero he opted already, which alam naman natin na dati pa yan dapat lumipad. Pero syempre he chose to bring the back-to-back title to LaSalle. Unfortunately, hindi yun yung nangyari, di ba? But then JD is done with his playing years. There's no other option for him to either go pro or again play abroad, and he chose that. So news are saying, I don't know kung how definite that is, but he's headed towards Korea, and he'll meet his arch nemesis currently, which is KQ, who's also going to play in Korea.
So sa tingin mo sa UP, who needs to step up?
I mean, malalim kasi yung UP. Ang daming bahala pa na nakatago dyan, di ba? Yung mayroon pa sila mga bagong films dyan na na-recruit. Again, knowing UP, we just saw the tip of the iceberg. They have a deep training pool. Their recruits are heavily, parang they've been doing their homework naman. So madaming pwede mag-step up sa UP, but then abangan din natin yung ibang mga schools. Nababalitaan natin, ang dami ring nakaabang, lalo na yung LaSalle. Papasok na yung mga Jacob Cortez dyan sa lineup na yan.
Alright, so it's time to move to our second hot take for tonight. Is esports a real sport? Honestly, okay, I want to start with you as a father, diba? A lot of, especially boomers or older, how do you say it in a...
Ingat ka, tread carefully kasi baka may mga viewers tayo dyan na may ma-offend. Kahit yung crew natin, baka may ma-offend dyan na mga boomers.
Parents. Because for parents, diba, they want their kids to focus on acads, their academe, and if not, yung sports, maybe music, but esports, dinududa.
Hindi, kasi alam mo, syempre tayo, di ba, habang tumatanda tayo, yung magulang natin laging sinasabi, tigilan mo na yung video games na yan, wala kang mapapala sa buhay pagkaka-video games. So, pero ngayon, syempre, hindi na po yun yung storya, di ba? Kasi nga, si DJ Mampusti is, he's 30 years old, he's been an 11-year esports pro, and he's what? Individual earnings yan, nasa almost over $1 million already. So, paano mo sasabihin, di ba? Pag sinumbat sa'yo ng magulang, hindi ko sinasabi sa mga kabataan na gamitin nyo to, sa magulang nyo, pero sinasabi ko lang na, di ba, hindi na totoo yung sinasabi at hinihirit ng mga magulang na wala kang mapapala kung puro ka Mobile Legends, puro ka Dota, puro ka panahon ko, Counter-Strike, di ba? Puro ka Counter-Strike, wala kang mapapala, magka-cutting classes ka and all, but ngayon, hindi na parehas, di ba? Pero going back to the topic, sports ba siya? So actually, I had to do my research kasi alam ko nang very sensitive yung topic, di ba? A lot of companies right now are invested in esports. It's actually an international tournament, di ba? Makikita mo nga sa Asian Games and all that na kasama na yung esports pinag-uusapan, and it's heavily funded. It's highly commercialized. It's highly viewed also. Ang daming nanonood, di ba? Malaki ang fan base ng esports. May sarili silang program and all. So, hindi mo na siya ma-deny na it's a legitimate event, di ba? So, now the question is it called a sport, di ba? So, by definition, define lang natin.
Yes,
Define muna natin. Ang nakasulat kasi sa dictionary, an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. So pag hinimay mo yung definition na yun, number 1, activity involving physical exertion.
Physical.
So fine motor skills, daliri, di ba? Physical exhaustion is part of it, sitting there.
Yes.
So,
And of course, the thrill, di ba?
medyo pasok siya, pasok, physical exertion. But then the skill, definitely. Hindi po madaling mag-esports. Akala mo, madali mag-esports, lalo na yung mga Mobile Legends, akala mo, ganun kabilis. It takes a lot of strategy, a lot of skill. Even if daliri mo lang yung gumagalaw, it takes a lot of skill. Timing is important. So definitely there's skill in which an individual or team competes against another. Obviously, there's competition. So pasok din siya sa definition. And then nakasulat doon, for entertainment. Obviously, pasok yun sa definition. Di ba? Parang very entertaining. The intensity, I mean, even as a family, ako, my wife, my kid, my in-laws, my brothers, we would play Counter-Strike before, di ba? So parang for entertainment is already there. Viewership, obviously. Monetized, definitely. Di ba? So it textbook definition, pasok kasi. Di ba? Na, it can be considered a sport. Kasi ang next question dyan is, bakit ang chess ba considered sport?
It is.
Diba?
Diba?
It is. By the Olympic Commission, International Olympic Commission, and by 100 countries, they consider chess as a sport. But then, syempre yung good friend nating si Noel Zarate, whose favorite niyang sport would probably be poker.
Exactly.
So ang next question, kung ang chess kino-consider mong sport, pero bakit ang poker hindi mo kino-consider na sport?
Okay, just to answer your question, no, I think sports, its definition is, nag-evolve. So under sports, we have actual sports, basketball, football, soccer, baseball, and now we have esports, and of course, we have our mind games association.
Mind sport.
So
that's right.
chess, and even poker. I mean, poker may negative connotation na it's gambling, but if you're part of a tournament, you use skills because you have to maintain very, very long until the end of the tournament for you to win, and you have to think, okay?
Right.
So it's part of the mind games association, kaya hindi na siya ganun ka, like a taboo topic, di ba?
Correct. So 2010, International Mind Sports Association established to. And then in 2017, the Global Association of International Sports Federation said na ang esports can now be, is in an observer status. Right? So ano ba yung observer status? Meaning, inaaral na nila kung pwede nilang i-accommodate ito and consider it as a strong candidate for sport. Kasi bakit? Siyempre, sinasabi natin may physical exertion. Alam nyo ba, yung world obstacle, yung obstacle course, yung, di ba na ginagawa,
Ninja
yung gumaano ka sa mga ganyan, or yung sa lupa, gumagapang ka, nagbubuhat ka, di ba? Yun, it's not even considered or acknowledged a sport yet. Nasa observer status pa rin siya. So, pag nakita mo yun, di ba, parang, kung yun nga, may physical exertion pero nasa observer status pa rin, di ba? So it puts it in the same league as esports, which is now in an observer status, meaning inaaral nila and they will officially acknowledge it as a sport. But again, I do believe that it is a sport, the same way you consider chess as a sport, which I know a lot of physically active athletes would say, hindi naman, hindi naman sport ang chess, game yan. But then, again, Olympics Commission, International Olympics Commission consider chess as a sport. 100 other countries consider chess as a sport. So it falls under that category. Even bridge, yung card game na bridge is considered a sport. The same way esports is a sport. And I think we're getting confused kasi. With the whole, hindi, pagka nagtutuke yan.
Iba kasi, iba yung environment.
NBA 2K yan, sport yung basketball na nilalaro, pero yung actual act is not a sport. But then again, you have nga, by definition, what we call a mind sport. So, I think it should be considered a sport the same way chess is considered a sport. I think the same way poker, Texas Hold'em should be considered a sport.
But for you personally, ikaw ba nag-e-sports ka ba?
hindi ako pwede umamin. Baka may mga sumita sa atin na, bakit ka naglalaro ha? Dapat di. No, but for fun, like I do it with my kids. It's a good bonding opportunity. They beg me to play. I don't really want to play, but for the record, sila talaga yung may gusto makipaglaro sa akin. Hindi talaga ako naglalaro. But yeah, but it's still, I mean, I know a lot of geniuses that play a lot of video games. I even know a 60-year-old man who's successful in business and still loves playing video games, diba? So it's a pastime for some, but others consider the challenge, diba? You know, people really take it seriously. Mobile Legends, Dota, it takes a lot, diba? Well, yeah, on top of that, it's entertaining, but it's a skill eh. Hindi siya kala mo madali lang, diba? Hindi siya ganun. It takes a certain level of skill, which I think puts it in the same category as sports.
Alright, so I guess it's time to move on to our third hot take for tonight. So, pro volleyball player racing the bar, Petrogas Angel Wenshu 2, now a lawyer. So this debunks the idea, no, for that athletes are just jocks. Athletes are just athletes. Thoughts?
Well, I'm the first one to say na hindi yun totoo, diba? We've seen a lot of pro athletes that after their life in pro sports, they become successful in whatever field, diba?
Exactly.
Classic example for me, talaga epitome of this, is Shaquille O'Neal, diba? He's actually Dr. Shaquille O'Neal, diba? He's earned his doctorate degree in business. He owns hundreds of businesses, franchises, and all that. He's very successful as a businessman, right? And so, you can never, hindi mo pwedeng ikahon ng isang atleta, diba? At sabihin na, porket atleta ka, ang next step mo dyan, magko-coach ka na. Which is again, nothing bad, nothing wrong with it. But to stereotype ang isang atleta na hanggang dyan ka na lang sa basketball, hanggang dyan lang alam mo, I think it's very unfair. Si Wenshu nga, so nag one and done, just a little bit of history, she was one and done for De La Salle Lady Spikers, diba? In which wherein she won a championship back in 2013. Nag one and done siya, pero kasi galing rin naman siya sa isa pang school, na La Salle din naman ang eskwelahan. I think La Salle Dasma yata siya nang galing. And wherein she played and then she moved, nag one and done siya dito sa Lady Archers. And then, she won a championship, but then right after she graduated, sinabi niya na baka mag-pursue siya ng law. Diba? She mentioned, and then, but again, fate had it na she had to go, she played for Air Asia, she played for Generica Ayala, and then she ended up in Petrogas in 2018-2019, and then I think she got injured. I have to verify that. And in the process of that, her rehab and all, recovering from surgery, she was studying for the bar. She was studying to be a lawyer. I would assume she took up law in FEU and eventually passed the bar in 2024, which is a big celebration for this kind of athlete, diba? Kasi madami ka rin naman, hindi mo rin, locally, ako, for example, Chris Chu, diba? Si Chris Chu is an example na he played in the PBA, represented the country, and then when he ended his career, he retired, he became a businessman, which he's successful in, diba? And then also you have, for me, another person I admire when it comes to that shift is, he's not yet retired, I think, si Jared Dillinger, diba? Iba naman yung space na pinasok niya, diba? He went through Bitcoin and NFTs, but he's one of the thought leaders, or at least top of mind when it comes to this space, diba? So meaning, life outside the sport, hindi malayo mangyari yan. Again, madaming tao nga ang sinasabi nila, the sport that you're in, professionally, is just a means to an end.
Yes.
Diba? Diba sinabi nga nila, yung iba, ball is life, pero madami ring alam nila na hindi forever ang sport na pinapasukan mo, diba? Maiksi lang ang buhay ng isang atleta. Maswerte ka na kung para kang si Asi Taolaban na tumagal talaga sa industriya, diba, ng sports. Pero after that, eventually, it will have to end. And then the next question is, what happens after that? And you're just happy to see athletes that their life doesn't end when their sport or their stint in that sport ends as well.
Yes. Just imagine the struggle, no? Lawyer, that's not easy at all. But you
for
have
a regular person, that's not easy, di ba? What more an athlete than it?
Exactly. But ikaw ba, sa tingin mo, if you have to, for example, Wench, if kailangan niyang pumili, no? Ano sa tingin mo yung magiging advice mo? Which to choose?
No, I think okay, I've always been a firm believer that sports just brings out something in any child. Okay, and I think every child should be involved in sports one way or the other, because the competitiveness, just the determination, student athlete life, iba lahat yan eh. It just brings out a different kind of resiliency and courage, di ba? Facing defeat, pushing through, sportsmanship, all of that, respect and loyalty and unity and camaraderie, all these things that you learn in sports, di ba? So I'm a firm believer in sports, and so I think it should never be a choice. It could be both, di ba? Na pursue sport. I think what led to her also succeeding in the bars is in that the resiliency. I think I'd like to believe that it was developed because of sports, di ba? Yung sports ang nag-develop nun sa kanya eh, di ba? So it doesn't have to be a choice, right? It can be both. Pursuing something after the sport that you love is still a win for you either way.
Pero madaming tao, madaming athletes, no, na gusto nilang seryosohin yung pagiging athlete. Gusto nila na yun yung source, or yun yung main focus nila. But of course, sometimes they have to balance it with something much more, somehow, realistic, di ba? Something more consistent. But for you personally, kung ako yun, sa tingin mo, ano magiging advice mo? Kasi torn ako eh. Okay ako as an athlete, but I also have to be somehow practical.
That's a good question. For me, again, being a parent I have kids that are into sports. The last thing that I want to say, kasi ang prinsipyo, lalo na sa pamilya namin, puro sports kasi kami sa pamilya namin. Ang prinsipyo nga na natutunan namin sa tatay namin is what's worth doing is worth doing well. Diba? Pag pinasok mo ang isang bagay, hindi ka pwedeng half-hearted. Kailangan all-in ka. Diba? Pinasok mo nagdesisyon ka na pasukin yan, kailangan all-in ka. Diba? Pero at some point, people will have to make a decision. But either way, kahit ano pa maging decision mo, kung ano man pasukin mo, kailangan all-in ka. Kasi the last thing that you want to happen is that you will always have yung what-ifs.
Yes.
Now, paano kung tinuloy ko? Siguro kung ginanito ko, kung ginalingan ko na lang, kung nag-ensayo pa ako ng ano, laging lalabas yun eh, di ba? So, ang importante is ibigay mo yung lahat. If hindi siya para sa'yo, hindi siya para sa'yo, pero kaya mong, you can walk away from the sport knowing that you gave it your all. Di ba?
Yes.
And then you move on to the next chapter in your life, and then you give it your all again. But the last thing that you want to happen is hindi mo ginawa ang isang bagay kasi natakot ka or nag-play safe ka. Yun yung there's nothing really there's nothing that's really earned that didn't require risks, diba? And so that's very important to take and live with the consequences of your actions. But ultimately, at least you made your decision, diba?
Exactly.
And you gave everything.
Exactly. What's meant for you will find its way
That's
to
right.
you, right?
Right.
Okay, now, napaka-sentimental naman. But it's time
Papasko
to...
na eh, di ba?
But it's time to move on to our last hot takes, or NBA Cup Finals recap. So, Milwaukee Bucks versus Oklahoma Thunder, 97-81.
Yeah, so this is the Emirates Cup, the NBA Emirates Cup. So it's an in-tournament. And mind you, ang pinanalo ng kada manlalaro, from what I've researched, is over $500.
Okay.
$500,000 ha? Ganun kalaki yung pinanalo.
Wild.
So kumbaga medyo talaga siya, nakakagana,
for
'di ba? Kailangan syempre tempting, 'di ba? Parang kasi syempre sa ibang mga NBA players, parang ano ba 'to, dagdag na pakulo, 'di ba?
Exactly.
Ano ba makukuha natin dito? Pero this Emirates Cup, every player had something to fight for. That's $500,000 is no joke. And again, ang naglaban dyan is Milwaukee Bucks and the Oklahoma Thunders. And just looking at the stats, analyzing the game, etong si Milwaukee Bucks, they were 7-0. So hindi sila talaga natalo dito. And then they won the game by 16 points. It was a great second half by the Milwaukee Bucks, to be honest. Kasi pag tinignan mo yung scoring ng second half, yung first half kasi dikit eh. Pero nung second half, biglang sumipa itong Milwaukee Bucks. They were plus 15 both in the combined third and fourth quarter. And Giannis and Damian Lillard had a combined total number of points of 49. Okay, 49 points in total lang na score ni Giannis and Lillard. Giannis Antetokounmpo had a triple-double with 26 points, 19 rebounds, and 10 assists. He was 10 out of 19 from the field. But then again, if you take a look at also itong OKC, si Chet Holmgren he didn't play, but then you can argue also, but si Milwaukee rin naman, si Middleton hindi rin naglaro. But I think this game was won from the three-point line. Milwaukee was 17 out of 40. That's 42% from the three-point territory. They actually have been shooting 41% in the last 15 games. And on the other hand, yung Oklahoma naman had only 5 out of 32 from that same area. So imagine that, plus 12 three-pointers ang na-shoot ng Milwaukee Bucks sa laro na to, kung kaya't naman tinambakan rin nila itong Oklahoma. And I think when they interviewed Damian Lillard, ang sinasabi nga niya, it was all about trust and time, di ba? Yung, kumbaga, because of the time that they've been spending together, hindi naman maganda yung start ng Milwaukee, but eventually they picked up. And because of time, enough time spending with each other, yung trust factor nag-kick in na. Sumipa na yung trust factor amongst them. Because why? They had 25 assists compared to the 13 of OKC. So, again, when you talk about the impact of playing together, again, you have to understand, Damian Lillard still finding his way, but then now nag-click, di ba? And again, magkakaroon pa yan ng isa pang problema pagka pumasok na si Middleton again. But they're set to be on the right path. Itong Milwaukee, Doc Rivers was interviewed and tinanong siya, how is it coaching Giannis Antetokounmpo? And he said, it's a 10 out of 10. He loves coaching a hard-working, dedicated, very humble, yet, gritty Giannis Antetokounmpo. And so I think that's a Milwaukee Bucks that's very promising. Sana lang hindi sila they don't let go of the gas. Kasi syempre, di ba, kahit sino namang atletas, kahit sino namang team, may feeling of accomplishment every time you win something.
Yes.
And then you kind of let go of the gas, umaatras ka ng konti. And so I hope it doesn't happen for Milwaukee and they keep pushing through.
So that's my question. Between these two, sa tingin mo is most likely to bring their A game na nandito that they possess during the NBA Cup Finals to the actual NBA playoffs?
Well, both are contenders. Obviously, SGA is playing another tremendous season. But again, Milwaukee winning this, it sets the right tone for them. It's a good barometer to see nasaan na ba sila pagdating dun sa chemistry nila. Di ba na pinagdududahan ng mga tao nung simula ng season.
Yes.
But them winning this, Giannis taking the lead, that 7-0, that's good for them, di ba? So again, time will tell. Just ang maganda dito yung outside shooting ng Milwaukee, di ba? Wala pa yung Middleton, di ba? Pero for them to shoot 41% in the last 15 games, hats off to Milwaukee.
But sa tingin mo ba for Milwaukee Bucks, kailangan ba nilang sulitin itong feeling ng pagkapanalo or do they have a chance?
They sleep, they celebrate, and then tomorrow they go back to war. It's always the mentality for lalo na itong mga in-tournament nila, di ba? Parang hindi naman ito yung ultimate prize. It's a good distraction, it's a good assessment, parang midterm assessment to, di ba? Nasusukat mo kung nasaan na kayo, and it's those short-term winnable goals, di ba, para sa kanila. But ultimately, ang long-term goal is to win the cup, the NBA Finals. And again, if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, things are looking bright, and you're hoping that they ride on this momentum and they do not let go of the gas.
All right, it's time to move on to our comments. JD will be in the Mount Rushmore of UP. Who can forget that Dagger 3 versus Ateneo to end the drought?
The drought,
Yes,
that's
drought.
correct.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I do agree that he is part. Like I said, I'm not denying the fact that he can potentially be in the Mount Rushmore. But I think it's too early to tell. If we're all gonna base it lang on the career of their stint in UP, di ba? Siyempre, yung Paul Desiderio, hindi mo rin maiiwasang hindi banggitin yan, di ba? Yung atin to, di ba? But then you have also guys like Bright Acueti, di ba? Malik Diouf. But definitely, JD, I think we have yet to see the ceiling to what he can accomplish because again it's his first stint moving out of UP, but the upside is there because again it's very difficult to compete with the likes of a Ronnie Magzano or a Benji Paras, diba? But definitely if you talk about Mount Rushmore, nandun siya, pinag-uusapan pa lang pero hindi pa natin pwedeng ma-finalize kasi nga hindi pa natin nakikita yung career niya after his stint in UP.
Yes, okay. Our next comment. Esports is not just kids play anymore. There are lots of pro players and they're earning a lot. In a very intense tournament, they can fill up a stadium like Mo Arena up to the rafters. In LPU, they have a course BS Esports. Actually, yeah.
Why didn't they have this before? Parang no-brainer ito. But then again, you know, esports and how I don't want to confuse people na may esports, pwede itong career path na lang, lahat na tayo mag-esports, di ba? Ako, for me, sa dami ng na nag-esports din, di ba? Sa dami na rin na very narrow yung competition mo, ang dami mong kalaban para dun sa spot na yun, di ba? Hindi lang naman ikaw eh. Ganun din naman sa basketball. Sa dami ng basketball court sa Pilipinas, sa kada barangay meron, di ba? Lahat ng Pilipinong bata na nangangarap na maging basketball player, hindi rin ganun kadali, di ba? Not because it's available, it's going to be easy. Di ba? Ilan lang, point something percent lang, 0 point something percent lang who actually make it this far.
Yes.
Di ba? So ganun din naman sa esports. But again, it's good to see that, you know, kasi yung BS Esports, parang sinasabi mo na rin yan, yung mga sports courses, di ba, sa mga universities, it's the same acknowledgement, di ba? So, wala rin naman tayo nakikitang BS in basketball or volleyball, di ba? Pero kahit pa paano, this is a big leap for LPU, but it's interesting kasi nga, it means they're taking things seriously. A lot of people are earning a lot also. Sa esports. So we're looking at really the growth of this space even more. Just the hype alone, di ba? Pag nakanood ka na ng live competition in an arena, grabe. On another level, ganda ng visual effects, everything, and you can feel the passion, di ba?
Even the fans.
Kasi tayo nga sa UAP, meron na tayong 2K, di ba? So, I mean, it's there. Sorry, for lack of a better term, stupid na lang ang i-deny yung reality that esports is here and it's here to stay. And people are actually taking it seriously, which everyone should.
Alright. Next comment. When shoot you, maganda, magaling mag-volleyball, matalino, at abogada pa. Siya ang epitome na walang imposible. Tama.
That's right.
Yes.
Again, if you put your mind into it, naniniwala ako na sports can bring that out. Diba? In people. Na to be determined that if you put your mind into something, the sacrifices na kailangan mong i-take, sports can do that. And so,
But not only that, no? Kasi with sports, pwede siyang maging release of your stress. So it also helps. Do we have any more comments? Crush ko yang si Wench Chu. Kita mo yung hard work niya. From student athlete to pro volleyball player / lawyer. San ka pa? Congrats, Wench. Of course, congratulations.
Alam mo kaya that's why it's hitting the news kasi parang yung profession kasi on its own, yung pagiging abogado, on its own, mahirap siya.
It requires so much eh.
Diba? Parang mahirap na nga yung naging pro athlete ka sa sport na pinili mo. Yung tumalon ka pa na maging abogado, parang yung mga taong naging doktor tsaka naging abogado din, di ba? Parang parehas yan, parang on its own right, halimaw ka na eh, di ba? Tapos ngayon, ganyan pa rin nagawa niya. So, nakakatuwa lang yung isang, it's a testament na walang imposible.
More than the effort, yung oras talaga eh. Parang napapa-question ka, paano niya nasingit yun,
and
diba?
I'm sure we're scratching. It would be good to hear her story. I mean, di ba, from getting injured and all, di ba, overcoming all of these things, di ba? And yet, to come out as a bar passer is a big deal.
The physical and mental, di ba? Okay, do we have any more comments? Ayan. Kita niyo ba ang saya ni Damian Lillard? I hope this inspires the whole team to win a championship once again.
Yeah, I think at some point Damian Lillard, because of their bad start, not naman, a slow start, he probably had to second guess na parang, oh, tama ba to? Okay ba to? Mananalo ba talaga kami? So I think it's a good validation for Damian Lillard that they won this. 7-0 in the Emirates Cup, that says a lot. And I think more importantly, ang lahat naman ng taong tumatalon into another team and gets traded or na existing champion team, ang tanong nila is, paano okay kaya yung integration ko? Di ba? Tama ba yung pag-integrate ko? Swabe ba yung integration ko? Fit ba ako talaga sa team na to? And I think Damian Lillard na parang may sigh of relief na siya, di ba? Na parang makakahinga na siya, nasasabi niya, at least masasabi niya na it wasn't the wrong decision for Milwaukee, it wasn't the wrong decision for Damian Lillard to get into to be part of this lineup. You have to understand, they gave up Drew Holiday for this guy, di ba? So, hindi siya, mahirap na decision yung nangyari, di ba? And yet, so parang for Damian Lillard, did I bring my curse from Portland to Milwaukee? Apparently not. And so, kaya naman masaya tong si ano. So, thank you, Ian, for that comment.
Alright, well, it's been a fun discussion with you. Malaman-laman, and every day I learned something new about these things, especially. So thank you, Juan, for showing up today.
You're welcome.
So, sports fans, if you're ready to elevate your sports experience, dive into the world of live sports like never before with Sports Bus. Whether you're a diehard fan or simply love the thrill of the game, we've got you covered. So register now at sportsbus.ph. And if you guys want to know more about us, follow us on our social media accounts. So once again, I'm your host, Kyla Cortez, and I'm here with Juan Banal. Thank you so much.
There's a bunch of different things that just like put it all together. Everything has like a different meaning.